right, well, I'm going to get started. Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to this wonderful place. Thanks for being here. My name's Nina Rosenberg, and the woman right there is Lissa. Lissa, raise your hand. Lissa.
She can't hear you.
Raise your hand. So Nina, Lissa and I are on the board of Slow Food Santa Fe. So we helped organize this event today. We're going to just make a few comments before introducing our guest today, Jim Embry. Okay, so just real quick about Slow Food Santa Fe. We're a local chapter of a national and international grassroots organization. It's called Slow Food USA and Slow Food International, and you'll hear more about that from Jim. This organization is all about creating a world where people can eat food that is good for them, good for the planet, and good for the people who grow it. We call that good, clean, and fair. And it's about uniting the joy of food with the pursuit of justice. And you'll hear more about that from Jim as well. You can check out our website, slowfoodsantafe.org. If you're not on our email list, we'll circulate a sign-up sheet for that. I'll mention just a couple of events that we have coming up. On July 14th, we're going to have a hands-on cooking class here at Reunity at 4 o'clock with a woman named Fallon Bader. She has a small company called Sprouting Kitchen, and she's going to take fresh produce from the farm that day and have a cooking class that we're going to enjoy cooking and then eating what we cook, which is great. We have a monthly dinner and a book club, and if you're not already aware of that, we can tell you more about that. We also have a monthly radio show, and the next one is tomorrow morning. And you can find the link on our website if you didn't hear it live. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Big thank you to Reunity, this beautiful farm, Juliana and Fajindo Ciano, right there. Okay, and for letting us use their space for this event. So Juliana's going to say a few words about the farm, and then I'll introduce Jim.
Hey everybody, thanks for being here tonight. You have found yourself at Reunity Resources, and I'd like to share a little bit about the history of this land. We are on unceded Tewa land, like much of northern New Mexico. This land specifically is where archaeologists believe that the Tewa people settled here after being nomadic since time immemorial in about 5,000 BCE, which means that the river valley we're in has at least 7,000 years of agricultural history. They lived here. The settlement was named Pindi Pueblo by archaeologists because Pindi is the Tewa word for turkey. And so there was lots of evidence of the domestication of the turkey and, of course, the alluvial plain as inspirations to begin an agrarian life rather than a nomadic one. It's an honor and a responsibility to take care of the land and work in reciprocity with our community and with the land to make things better for all of us. So we're happy you're here. We hope you come back and come often. We're just starting our community event season and new hours. So this summer we are open Thursdays and Fridays from 3 to 9 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. I have little postcards with that information on it. There's live music, creative movement class for little kids on Sunday mornings, cooking classes, like we mentioned, and a whole variety of things. So you can hop on our newsletter if you want to find out more. That's at our homepage, reunityresources.com, right at the bottom. You'll sign up and hear from us once a week about what's going on, and we hope to see you again.
You can. Thank you, Juliana. Okay, so I'm going to now introduce our Slow Food colleague, Jim Embry. Jim is on a road trip from his home in Kentucky to Hawaii, and he's stopping and visiting Slow Food chapters and other food-related organizations along the way. He's a longtime food activist. He's been an active participant in Slow Food's Equity, Inclusion, and Justice Committee, and he's a 6-time U.S. delegate to Slow Food Terra Madre. I'm going to probably tell you what that's about. Jim has a long history of connecting social justice, food and agriculture justice, and environmental justice within other social movements. And let's see, in 2007 he founded the Sustainable Communities Network in his community of Lexington, Kentucky. And you can go to Sustainable Communities Network or take one of his business cards and find some contact information to learn more, but it's much better if you hear Jim talk about his story than me. He does a much better job of that. So this evening we've asked Jim to talk to us about future of food system and slow food and anything else he wants to talk about. And we're here until the music starts and makes too much noise for us to hear. Thank you, Jim.
Wow. I'm in Santa Fe, sure enough. Wow. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being here. I'm blessed, honored that you're all here. But I don't just mean you all who are sitting here physically. I'm talking also about many of those people who wanted to be here, okay, but for various reasons couldn't. We honor their presence. All of us also, all these other relations of ours, these trees, these mountains, these fungi, these rivers, these animals, we welcome their spirit here. And we welcome not just the current dwellers here, who've come, many of us from all over the world, however we came here, but also those indigenous folks who were here 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago. That's what I mean by thank you to all who are here. Because those spirits still live. And it's up to us to try to find ways to connect with those vibrations. I was asked to talk about resilience, the food system, agricultural system in the future. How resilient do you want to be? Can you be if you spent 30,000 years here growing that wild corn that became corn? So the future lies not just in what Jim Embry has to say, but also it's about how do we honor, respect, understand what's come before us. But also I want to welcome the spirits who are yet to be born, who are here, and to be here with Nina and her husband, because they're being at home, okay? And just open up, describe if you would, Sam, just describe what's in here.
That's a sweet Dakota rose watermelon.
Okay. So I was saying that Nina swallowed a big watermelon seed. And she said, well, yeah, well, he kind of helped along with this. Anyway, but thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Part of the cosmology, the thinking of indigenous folk, is that when you speak like it's a prayer. I try truly throughout the day, not just pray in the evening, not just pray in the morning or around the meal. I try when I'm speaking all the time. So it's a prayer. Because these folks say that what we're saying here tonight, be careful what you're saying. Because it can impact how many generations? 7 generations. Okay? And we think, man, that's bullshit. Excuse me, that makes no sense. But I'm not quite sure what Nina's carrying, a boy or girl. But if she were carrying a girl, at 4 months gestation, that girl fetus has all the eggs she will ever have. Okay? That means the vibrations not just from the parents, grandparents, maybe great-grandparents, are impacting that egg. Those kind of teachings help us understand how to be more resilient, and so forth. So I want to thank again all the wonderful Santa Fe team, Nina, Lisa, and all you group of folks who put this together. Thank you so much. I've been reading about this Reunity Richardson's Farm. I drove by here, I thought, that is an oasis over there, okay? Incredible work. So, as we know, lying right here are lessons of how to be resilient. Right here lie lessons, models for the future. Every community ought to have this kind of Reunity Farm, where you have a systems approach to what we're doing. Everybody needs what we have here. So part of the vision is, how can we replicate? How can we duplicate? How can we send to your friends and relatives all over the country this kind of idea? So, I have a few cheat notes here, so I can tell you something that's worth carrying with you. I want to discuss some concepts more than actual practices. Wrong page. That's for another talk I already did. So, as was mentioned, I'm on this joy and justice journey in June. We're going an entire month. 25 cities. At least 12 local slow food chapters. 8 or 10 different food co-ops. I've already visited 2 sons in Nashville and Memphis. I'll see our daughter in Santa Clara, and we're going to Hawaii for a week. All kinds of friends along the way. So I have a kind of a schedule. I wouldn't send it to any of you all. This is my business card, so you kind of know where I'm at. But I'm also open to the uncertainty, the spontaneity along the way. And I look for all of that spontaneity. As I've lived all these years, I've boiled down to a simple phrase, this purpose of human life. Kind of boiled it down. The purpose is bring light in and send light out. It's real simple. Bring light in, that means all the light, and all kind of that is around us. Quantum science says the smallest fractal of life is a string vibration. Not an electron, not a proton. A string vibration. Everything's vibrating. So part of our work is to bring that light in and not just hoard it, send it back out. Do it in all kinds of ways. So every day I look for people like, give me some of your light. You know, I need to know you. Okay? That kind of spirit. It's one about the co-op, to get some provisions, you know, and whatever. I was there an hour and a half. I walked in, met some folk. We had a half-hour conversation. Went inside, met one of the managers, 3 of the staff. One of the staff was from Hawaii, wearing a lei. Outside, another hour conversation. That's how light works. So, joy and justice. Within Slow Food USA, about 4 years ago, we began, finally, a campaign, we call it the Equity, Inclusion, Justice campaign and manifesto. I helped write that manifesto, again, about 4 years ago. It's on our website. And it addresses this both historical injustice in our country, and also provides a pathway of how do we reconcile, how do we alleviate, how do we dismantle all these various forms of injustice and perfect the democracy. we recognize when the country was founded, it was founded upon this contradiction of stolen land and stolen labor to do what? Agriculture. Okay? And all the other forms of injustice emanated from this stolen land, stolen labor. It's important for us to recognize that all of us who assembled here, and part of our work around joy and justice, is to say this contradiction of land and labor being stolen also provides the pivot point, the fulcrum for transformative work. It's about the future of food and ag. For women, let's say, for example, and because we know that the women 12,000 years ago developed agriculture, because we men, we were out hunting for days and weeks and months, and mamas were saying, "You've been gone 2 weeks, I got babies to feed, you promised me an antelope or whatever, now what can I do, because I don't know when you're going to be back." So women said, out of necessity, we got to begin getting these seeds, growing stuff, and now we have what's called agriculture. It was with the advent of agriculture that humans developed what we call culture. All the art forms, religion, pottery, tool making, weapon making, music, were all based about you're going to eat tomorrow. I was downtown earlier, saw all kind of beautiful pottery in the museum. Back years ago, that pottery was to carry water and food. The tools were meant to dig and to grow and to hunt. That's what gave rise to what we call art and culture. Thanks to women, agriculture. But even now, within the food and ag systems, it's within food and ag where women experience untold oppression, exploitation, sexual violence within the food and ag system. So we have many reasons to all be part of this network of joy and justice. It brings joy when women are respected and loved and protected. It brings joy when all of our people who reside now in Turtle Island have not just adequate food to eat, but food is also culturally relevant. That brings joy. So again, when I was fashioning this idea of coming out west for a month, I thought, wow, let me reach back and get this Slow Food USA theme of joy and justice and use that as a theme. Now, I hope you will all take back with you a few things. The table over here, I've got these bracelets that we used years ago that are labeled joy and justice. It was part of our campaign years ago to help embed the manifesto within all the chapters. We asked chapters to buy these and use them to sell for their chapter funds. But these were made by some of our slow food friends in Kenya, a women's cooperative. So we commissioned them to make these bracelets as part of our fundraising. They shipped them over, and we, of course, paid them. So please take one, or at least share the story, okay, and be a part of this global effort around joy and justice. So that's kind of the background to the idea of joy and justice. I'm meeting with all kinds of people along the way, of course, as I mentioned, and we're utilizing this theme to make people just, during these times right now, with this almost like escalation and all kinds of violence in our communities. We need some joy with purpose. We need some joy with meaning. And there's no better effort I can think of than joy justice around food and agriculture. And there's all kinds of issues we need to be working with. So also on the table over here are a bunch of slow food stuff, buttons, stick-ons, postcards, take that home with you too, because when the evening ends, that table over there ought to be empty. Take them up home. And if you want to drop in that hat, donation, please do that as well. So I wear about 15 different hats. And some folks think, Jim is involved in all these things that don't connect. Okay? That's what they think. But they all interconnect. See, 500 years ago, in Europe, arose this worldview they would tend to call Newtonian Cartesian view of the world. It was a worldview that humans hadn't experienced before. It said the earth no longer was the mother of all of us to be respected and loved, but she was just a clock, a machine, an inanimate object to be devastated, to be mined, and mountains that took millions of years to develop just ripped apart. The worldview also said you can understand life and how it's all separated. It's the idea of disconnection. That's how we're all taught. We're all taught to view the world in separate parts that don't appear to be connected. And what we need is a way of thinking that connects things, where there's all this interconnectedness, interdependence. And that's the basis of indigenous thinking. It's the basis of most spiritual traditions. And it's also the basis of quantum science. So part of my view is we need to begin to unlearn this Newtonian model and begin to connect, synthesize this indigenous cosmology, this spiritual traditions, and quantum science. That's what I try to do, is bring them together. That's what we need for the future. We need, yes, a garden and a farm, farmers markets, co-ops. We need all that. We need a different worldview. A different worldview. Because, see, we're taught that what's down here is dirt, soil, and it is. That's what we call it. But it's also what dirt is, what soil is. It's the sacred medium that becomes us. We're eating dirt, soil, compost secondhand when we eat plants. Eating it third hand when we're eating animals. But what we're eating is what's in the soil that becomes us. There's a great video, if you haven't seen it, called Dirt the Movie. If you haven't seen it, take time, write it down, take it with you, and watch. Dirt the movie. It will help change your understanding. Okay, what we call dirt is the sacred medium. You can find that in all these different spiritual traditions. Now, somewhere in the Bible, might be, I forget, Matthew, Mark, Exodus, where is it? It might be in Genesis. It might be Genesis. Might even be in the first few verses. If I'm not wrong. It talks about, and God reached down and picked up clay, dirt, and breathed the breath of life and created Adam and Eve. So, think about this thing called dirt. Now, can I do a wardrobe change? Hope you don't mind. I want to talk about Terra Madre, which means Mother Earth. Slow Food sponsors every 2 years this gathering, and Nina and I were there in 2014, okay? Had a wonderful time together, but it's going to occur this year. We missed last year, or 2020. It's going to occur this year in September. If you can go, try to go. If you can't go, find a way to connect some of the broadcasts and live productions or whatever else, or look back at some of the videos. I've got on my YouTube channel, I've got 4 or 5 videos of my talking about Terra Madre, okay? But every December, we do a Terra Madre Day, okay? That's a way to connect ourselves with folks all around the world. Terra Madre Day. And we also have an indigenous Terra Madre network, okay? So just be aware and take that idea home with you, okay? It's in September. And we also have this year our International Congress. I've gone twice, once in Italy and once in China. I'm doing my Janet Jackson, okay, wardrobe change. So when we were in China, okay, the folks in China gave us these aprons, okay? Slow Food China. So if you want to borrow it, okay, for a day, you cook in, you're welcome to do that. Anyway, enough about Terra Madre. So, I have over here in my seed rack a couple things. I have this incredible Southern Exposure Seed Exchange catalog, and I'm friends with all kinds of folk that sell seeds. We're part of a network, whether it's, you know, all of them. You know, High Mowing, Johnny's, you know, all of them are all friends of ours. We're not competing, okay? But anyway, one of my favorites is Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. They've been dear friends of mine for a long time. And they're also great because they're one of the few catalogs that also list all the slow food, Ark of Taste seed items, okay? So we have, again, on Ark of Taste, it's like this gathering, documentation of all kinds of products that we think need to be preserved. And there's this catalog here, take a look at that. And then Southern Exposure is the mother of a new seed co-op called Ujama Seed Co-ops that I helped found about a year ago. I have over here a whole bunch of seeds that you're welcome to them. Again, if you care to, leave in the hat there a donation. Ujama is a Swahili word, East Africa, meaning collective work of responsibility. Okay? So we ask you, as part of this joy and justice journey, to get connected, not just with us as Ujama Seeds, but get connected to growing food, yes, but also growing food and saving seeds. What we need are regional seed banks. All the folks here ought to be connected in a network, whether it's Slow Food Santa Fe or whatever, to the farm here, of saying, okay, what's your name, dear heart? Sunday. Sunday's growing watermelon for the seed bank. What's your name, dear heart, again? Beth is growing corn. What's your name, dear? Pam is growing squash. Because with the changing climate, we have to adapt seeds to different growing regions. But this year, we couldn't find chips for cars. We couldn't find baby formula. We couldn't find tissue in the stores. These are all signs of other things to come. Okay? So, part of my work of providing seeds isn't just to say, well, hey, buy this one. We're saying buy from all the great seed companies, but also grow seeds, grow things, and save seeds and share them locally, regionally. Okay? What that's about. But check them out. And I mentioned over here that, so Ujama, we specialize in seeds that are culturally relevant to people. Okay? Culturally relevant to people. We specialize in things like that are seeds from the African diaspora, that Africans brought here, even in enslaved condition. You know, the women, when they were captured and chained and on ships, they would hide seeds in their hair, the sesame seeds, okay, bean seeds, watermelon seeds, to carry with them wherever they were going. Okay? So we carry those kinds of seeds. We carry over there a corn that's like a wild corn variety. It's over there. That's like the mother of corn. So the folks who were here spent thousands of years with that wild plant, mixing it, adding pollen, adding this to it. And now we have corn. We need to understand that, what that work took. Okay? So we have seeds that help provide that kind of understanding. We're growing seeds that are pertinent to people who are Asian American. I mentioned to Nina before that again, we have friends all around the world. We have friends in Ukraine. And about a month ago or so, our friends in Ukraine, who are the stewards of the food bank there, sent us a quantity of seeds. Asking us or entrusting us to hold these seeds until the war ends. Okay, till the war ends. Because they weren't sure what might happen to their seed bank. Anyway, this little story there. Part of my framework of my travels, this Joy and Justice Journey in June, is around cooperatives. I helped found a food co-op in Lexington 50 years ago. This is our newsletter, and then they went around, they interviewed all kind of people. There was a nice article in there about this half a century anniversary. So part of my framework is to visit other co-ops, like I did today, La Martinita, to help celebrate cooperatives. I've been a part of cooperatives my whole life. I've helped form a bunch of them in all kinds of ways, whether they're credit unions, food co-ops, farmer co-ops, and so forth. But understand about cooperatives. We're talking about humans practicing what the earth does all the time. Cooperation. We're sitting under this tree, and the tree has produced green leaves, and it cooperates with the sun, with the air, with the water, with the insects, the fungi, to produce these trees, the fruit, and whatever. That is a cooperative relationship. So why shouldn't we be trying to mimic what the earth already does? It's not just a human organization. It's us getting in rhythm with the earth's rhythms. So, again, my framework is about cooperatives. Two more things, and then I'll have some Q&A. This idea of being indigenous. Again, all of us who've come here to the last 500 or more years, however we came here, our work is to perfect the democracy. Right here. That's our work. But our work is also to become a greater understanding a greater sense of respect and reliance on indigenous culture. They've been here for 30,000 years. That's important that we do that. We think we can come here and figure this stuff out. Okay? We can do some part of that, sure. But to get a better understanding, we've got to know what's come before us. And then each of us also, however we came here, comes from indigenous cultures. Whether it's in Asia, Europe, the Americas, and wherever else. So our work is also to think back on those indigenous wisdoms that we emanate from. But part of my mantra is that we're all indigenous to the earth. And we need to claim that. We need to love that, honor that we are indigenous to the earth. But what that means, we've got to begin acting like it. Where else are we going to go? We have to act like we're indigenous to the earth. We need some new rituals. We need new ways of looking at the world, honoring all these relationships. So again, we're all indigenous. It doesn't mean that we expropriate, disrespect those who've been here. Now, another concept about the future of resilience, and that is George Washington Carver. Okay? Now we're here on the farm. On the website is a regenerative farm. I love that idea, love that concept. Okay? But while we're on our websites saying things like that, we ought to have somewhere on there talking about who was doing the work before we were doing it. Okay? That work is important to have as part of our foundation. Yes, we're here for these many years, and we're composting and whatever else, and this is great stuff. But folk before us honored the land, made it possible for us. And George Washington Carver was talking all about this stuff in the 1890s. He spent almost 50 years at Tuskegee, wrote 44 bulletins, spoke, traveled in his Jessup wagon, talking about things like what we now call organic farming, composting, local production, understanding the bioregion, no-till farming, okay, cover cropping, all kind of production of local items. He and Henry Ford had a green vision. It's a great book here, The Green Vision of Henry Ford, George Washington Carver. All the things we're doing now, recycling, composting, biofuels, it's all in here. Folks from the farm, it's all on your website. Okay? You begin with biofuels. Their vision was to have U.S. industry based on farm products grown by American farmers. They were doing biofuels. They were making car bodies from soybean oil. I go on and on. There was no better called recycler than Carver. So I hope you all who are here will take time to study, research, go to Tuskegee website, go to my website, find books, and learn about this work of this guy here. Okay? He's like my beloved elder, ancestor, guide for the future. What he was saying, doing, he and Ford is also friends with Einstein, Thomas Edison. Okay, they were all friends. Edison wanted to hire Carver to come up and work in the lab. He said, no, I'm in Tuskegee. Ford said, man, come to Dearborn and work. He said, no, I'm a Tuskegee. If you read some of Einstein and Edison's writings, they said Carver was the greatest scientist of our time. That's what they said. And they weren't too shabby themselves. Last concept, and that's about Juneteenth. You know, June is a month of where we celebrate now Juneteenth. Last year, as we know, there was a federal law passed making Juneteenth a federal holiday. 49 states now recognize it, okay? And as you know, it was that day, part of the historical narrative, that a guy named General Granger, the Union Army, went to Galveston, Texas, to read this General Order Number 3, telling the enslaved Africans there that, hey, we've won the war, and you all are now free. And there was a great celebration, a great jubilee, and out of that birth what we now call Juneteenth. Right? And as June is celebrated, thought about the narrative as an African American holiday. And it is that. It's a day of great jubilee, great hallelujahs, great joy. But it also should be celebrated as the day of the time of the country's reunification. Okay? We talk about July 4th as Independence Day. That's wonderful. But we don't talk about reunification as even an important part of the narrative, because it was too closely aligned with emancipation. Okay? But you thought about, what if the South won the war? You thought about that? What if the Confederacy won the war? If it happened, I wouldn't be here today with you all. Okay? We would maybe look like what's now North Korea, South Korea. We might look like what was East Germany, West Germany, or what was North Vietnam, South Vietnam. You ever thought about that? What it might look like? It would change the whole world political spectrum. You thought about that? The world wouldn't look the same. If the South had won the war. It would change so many things. But we don't honor it because it was too closely aligned to black folk being free. Now, what happened with Juneteenth? This is a new book, came out in April. It's called We Are Each Other's Harvest, written by a friend of mine named Natalie Bazille, who also wrote for Queen Sugar. I have an essay in that book that tells the story of my family and Juneteenth. Okay? I have some extra copies of the article. Get the book as well. Now, so I had in my family 3 great-grandfathers fought in the Civil War. It's called the U.S. Colored Troops. That came from around my community where I live now in Kentucky. I have 3. One of them died, which was my direct great-grandfather. His wife survived with 7 kids. That's why I'm here today, honoring them. Another one, who was his brother, was part of the 114th Regiment that kicked, children here, that kicked Lee's ass in Virginia. Okay? There were 180,000 black men and women fought in the Civil War. And it turned the tide of the war. Okay? Lee is still studied at West Point as being one of the most masterful war tacticians. But these black troops who were fighting for the freedom of their families. Okay? freedom of their families. They were courageous. They surrounded Lee and forced his surrender at Appomattox. The article says, my great-grandfather George was there when Lee surrendered. And then, when that happened, the Union Army, Grant, said, well, you know, in Texas, there's still some Confederate armies that are still resisting and occupying Texas, and they're maybe allowing the Mexican border to be, whatever, messed with. So they sent about 10,000 black troops to Galveston in May, not June, in May. One of them was my great-grandfather. So can you imagine in Galveston on like May 14th, 10,000 black troops marching off the boats into Galveston? The white folk went crazy. What are y'all doing? This must be some kind of horror movie, okay? Black folk were shouting, hallelujah. Oh, praise the Lord. They were crying, grabbing soldiers and hugging them. So I say, let's don't give Granger all the credit. They don't fight no wars. These troops went in there, they fought some battles, Confederacy, got it all settled in Galveston for a whole month, and then Granger came riding in. Okay? Reading his order number 3. My point is that Juneteenth and the introduction in 1864 of 180,000 black men and women helped save the Union. Okay? Helped save the Union. Reunified the country, because for 4 or 5 years, we were a divided country. Each had its own president, its own money, its own capital. That's why we should all celebrate Juneteenth as Jubilee Day, Emancipation Day, and what? Reunification Day. With that, I rest my case, okay? And open up for comments, questions, or whatever else. That's water somewhere. Go ahead, ask the question, go ahead.
Can you talk a little bit about whether your opinion, whether you feel that there is social injustice in the current food distribution system, or
All throughout it.
what?
All throughout it.
I mean, maybe you could just elaborate a little bit.
On the food distribution?
Well, the topic was social. I was just trying to feel where you feel there, about social injustice, and maybe as a corollary to that, you talked about your vision, or the vision of slow food, is to try to give good, healthy food to people. So maybe you could intertwine it with if you had the perfect vision, how would it look like? Particularly to people not like us who are here on the farm, but more like people in the cities or people that maybe have the advantage.
Yes.
And how that could create more social. What your vision is.
Yes. So I understand that injustice is systemic, and it runs rampant throughout the food and ag system at every level. I mentioned earlier about stolen land. Thank you. About stolen land. Okay? So, to create some justice, we're going to have some reckoning, some reconciliation about land. Okay? And land either being returned or some kind of a reckoning. One thought that's been pitched out is we got all these federal parks, okay, all around the country, all these federal parks. And as we know, part of the park development was to get rid of all the indigenous people and then just preserve all the flora and the fauna. That might be a location to begin doing land reparations, okay? But again, so the injustice runs throughout every level, but it has to include things like that. Okay? So how do we get behind a campaign, say federal government? Let's think about all these federal parks and all this land and those that need more arable land to grow on, and thinking about a redistribution. The same way before the Civil War ended, Lincoln developed the Homestead Act and said, hey, you Europeans, oh, go west. Got some land, almost free. You pay $5, $10, and you get 300 acres. It's been done before. That's one level. I mentioned earlier about the role of women in different, especially within, the labor of agriculture, the migrant workers, the meat packing industry, the fast food joints, where women oftentimes occupy the majority position. We're not paying living wages. The women are out working oftentimes in conditions that are extreme, being paid, no retirement, no health care. Okay? That's just one level of that level of who's, planting, producing, harvesting the food, especially in those sectors there. I have, a good friend of mine who's a professor at a land-grant college. She's a black woman. She's knows her stuff. But these kind of engineering areas, and she's like an environmental engineer or agricultural engineer, okay? But these engineering circles, who are the people who are the predominant folks in engineering? It's white men. Okay, it's men. Just having a hard time. Sexism, racism, lack of respecting her. And that's at the professorship level of injustice, okay? We have, a lot of our food is grown by the big agribusinesses. The USDA, a lot of its money goes to the big agribusinesses to produce massive amounts of foods, okay, that's shipped in 2,500 miles away. We need more monies than the USDA given to small farmers, okay? Whether it's loans, grants, other kind of support, where we're supporting more local, regional, small farming operations, not just the big agribusinesses. So that's injustice. I was just on the phone call today with some lawyers about the USDA and the prevailing discrimination in the USDA of providing support for people of color farmers, black folk, Asian folk, Latino, and also women. Okay? Now, years ago, there was a settlement called the Pickford cases, where the USDA was taken to court, was shown how they had been discriminating since its inception. They paid out a lot of money. There's still stuff going on. There's a new suit being filed. So I was testifying in front of some lawyers, like a deposition about the USDA. So we need to make sure that all of our city government, county government, state government, and federal government entities are doing justice for those that they're serving. Okay? Where I live now, the time to end?
No.
Oh, no, okay. So where I live now, in Richmond's a rural community, and my folks, again, were brought there in 1800 in slave condition. And back years ago, it was a very viable community. Folks all knew each other, they worked together, they grew what they ate, they grew on the farms, they were healthy. In our family, we had 7 people who were centenarians, 100 years plus. Okay? Now, where I live at, all these great small farms, great small farm stores owned by local people. You know what's there now? The general dollar stores. That's what's all there. Maybe they're here too. They're throughout Kentucky. So the folk who live there now, they're eating from there. That's an injustice. And ain't much but trash food there. It's all packaged. A lot of soft drinks, Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, Mountain Dew, packaged stuff. And you wonder why during COVID, they said, well, it's hitting people who have compromised health conditions. And our government, federal, state, local, our businesses support a food system that has folk eat stuff that creates what? Compromised health conditions. Why? They're making all kinds of money off of it. They're making money double and triple time. They make money off of the food they sell, that's real cheap and processed, easy to produce. They make money when you get sick. And you got to go in there, and you go in and you get assigned not 1, 10 bottles of drugs to take care of these ailments. And then when you have a bad heart, they got to go in, they got to do open heart surgery. Okay? And knee replacement. They're making all kinds of money off of food and ag system. So we've got to change that. In Kentucky, so we're called the Commonwealth of Kentucky because we arose up from Virginia Commonwealth. We're called the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And what I've been saying, we need a new state motto. No longer commonwealth for the few. We need a common health for everybody. A common health for the people, a common health for the ecosystem, a common health for the economy. We need a common health. That's what we need. So again, there are many books, including the one here that I referred to, that list out,
Which is great, by the way. I just finished it.
a whole myriad of injustices within all the various sectors. Okay? That's just a few of them, and I work on all of them. That's why I say, I'm trying to connect the dots, bring things together. So that's just a few examples. What we need is not more dollar stores. Now, what we do need is cheaper, organic, and healthy food. But the system is rigged up. It's rigged up to make bad, poor, processed, unhealthy food cheap and healthy food expensive. Because check this out. Before World War II, for all of human history of farming, 12,000 years back, it was all done organically. You thought about that? Okay. It's all done organically. Wouldn't call it that. But around World War I and World War II, it began to change. Why? Because we came back from the wars with all these chemical weapons. Okay? And they're right in my county. We have the largest stockpile, where I live at, a mile from my house, .0, of chemical weapons that came back from World War II. Sarin gas, mustard gas, and so on. Well, we were using the gases as well. They came back and said, we've always chemical weapons. What are we going to do with them? I said, well, let's convince farmers, growers, the whole nation, that now we have to have all these chemical additives within the whole food system. Fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, anything, kill everything. Chemicals. Okay? And we adopted now what's called this industrial agricultural model. Okay? But again, before that, the food was all organic and it was cheap. Okay? So, what we have to do though is change how the USDA operates, and make healthy food what's cheaper and the processed food more expensive. Because people think, they say, well, you know, we go in and we buy this processed, it's cheap. But no, it's not. Think about the effects of that food. Think about the cost of the food on water pollution, soil pollution, and so forth. Think about that expense. Think about the expense that you've got a husband and a wife, okay, who are not healthy, okay? And they're coming, and they're young, and they've got diabetes, they've got heart problems, they've got cancer, they've got all kinds of problems. They die early. They're in the hospital, okay? There's all kinds of economic expense around healthcare. So no, that food ain't cheap. It's costing us a lot of things, not just money. Our Nina's gone, our great-grandchildren will inherit these problems, not just lack of water pollution, air pollution, soil pollution. One last thought, I was in Florida last October at St. George's Island on vacation, hanging out, but I couldn't get into the water. Couldn't get into the water. Why? Because what's called red algae. The big algae blooms that form all along the coast. And why does it bloom like that? Because of all the farm runoff, all the urban runoff from the farms, the parking lots, goes to the rivers, the Ohio River, Mississippi River, the Gulf, and the big algae bloom develops.
Jim?
Yes.
I'm going to just thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
You can stay,
Yes.
and people can stay. I just want to, because I see the people coming for the band and stuff, so I just want to thank Jim. But people, a food truck is here. You can get some goodies, and Jim, please stay.
I'll sit
And
right
people,
Water.
and chat, and you can just breathe for a minute and get some water, and we can
I'm
get
good.
used to food.
Thank you all.
But
Great question.
thank you, and so people are free to, get up if they want, but stay here and
Yes.
and ask questions, because I
Please
think,
take
Jim,
seats and
you have a lot of energy still.
Bands, whatever. Absolutely. Oh, I'm not sure.
That's a question for Juliana,
Yes,
who's
she
the
would-
farm owner.
When you come in from the other side,
It's
Oh, yeah,
gorgeous.
they're lovely.
Yeah, I don't know if we know that, but
we need more jujube trees.
Mm.
Jujube trees.
thank you
Thank you all.
so much.
Thank you all. It's been lovely.
Thank you very much. You obviously are a gifted speaker. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, there's a dum-dum here.
Fork down.
Slow the fork down.
What do you mean? He died in the 30s, then his son changed the direction. Son.
You can
Forgot
substitute
all
another F word.
he died in the 30s.
That's what that
Oh,
is.
wonderful ideas. It'd be a different world if their ideas had been held true. If his son
Thank you.
decided to join the fossil fuel folks, the Exxon and all that.
Okay, so that's where
So you guys are doing this like all?
next generation.
So I'm not the farm. I'm representing Slow Food Santa Fe, but we're using Reunity Farm is letting us do this event here. So Reunity is amazing. I don't know if you.
99%.
Oh, Juliana. It's the woman with the short hair right there. She's and the man with the blue T-shirt. It's their farm.
I'm consuming what's called
And
plant-based.
so in the summer they have events. They have music on Friday nights, and they have the farm stands open on the weekends, and Thursday and Friday, and they let you do things like this here, and they're just wonderful.
Program, a lot of water.
And you can feed it bugs. I
food.
mean, it's just amazing.
Chemical,
And so
exercise.
do you go to the Santa Fe
meditation,
Farmers
not
Market at
just
all?
food.
So they have a
Now, don't
booth at the
eat
Santa Fe
meat.
Farmers
That's-
Market,
yeah.
and their stuff is always great. Yeah. Are you in Santa Fe? Are you in Santa Fe?
Yeah, well, I don't.
No, they're
I
Juliana.
don't need to eat, those
She's the
that mimic me. I don't-
person you see more. Her husband's more behind the scenes.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
she's just great.
you know, what they're doing.
Slow Food Santa Fe is, we have all that stuff there, but it's a local chapter. It's a national
changing diets,
organization,
be
but
more
we're Slow
healthy,
Food Santa Fe.
and they're
You
offering
can sign
that.
up for our mailing
But I
list.
don't, spend a lot of time
And we do all
learning
kinds
about
of
what
events
they're doing
related to
and what
food
the gates
stuff.
of
We're
the
going to have a
world,
cooking
what
class
they're
here
doing. They're doing
July.
their thing, and
Well, it's just
where we're
people
gonna
think
have
they're being
fresh
virtuous for
produce
the
and
humans thing. How do you
do a picnic.
switch
She's
off the
cooking lesson.
well, again, my days are real busy, and they're real
Just
full,
picking everything up.
doing what
So I think that's all.
I want to do, and I can't always worry about what they're doing. I mean, I'm aware of what they're doing, but my work is, folks, learn, understand, and do what's right for you. I don't preach necessarily to people about what they should be changing. I try to provide books, materials, information, whatever. I don't tell people what to do. So if people want to go and eat what they're producing, that's okay. I'm fine with that, because I can't control all of that. I can now, if you have, say, a meeting, say a gym, come in with a presentation about those aspects of food, I can do that. Absolutely. But again, I don't personally go to the store looking for all these, what they tend to call meat-looking products. I never needed to do that. Okay?
Is this the subject of tomorrow morning's?
It's a false comparison. Part of the thing was.
Are you still recording? Do you want to?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. I just don't want to.
Was that that meat has protein, and we should all eat more protein. But everything has protein. Everything has protein.
No, I just wondered, it's a conundrum, because as the consciousness shifts to eating more plant-based, yet then it becomes this. Yeah.
But again, within the movement, there are always elements that arise like that. The gates is just one example of the myriad of things that are happening that for me are cautionary. Things that I'm aware of, and in my view, that's not what I would do. Okay, it's not what I would do. But they have more money than I have. I can't, they're on a train. I can't stop the train. Okay, I can make people aware of the train. I work on the things that I can control, that I can do, how I contribute. That's what I work on. And but yeah, I mean, we can sit here and talk about 100 things that are going on, from Gates to these other, the guy that founded, all these big billionaires are doing all this so-called food revolutionary, green revolution of food. From Monsanto to seeds and all that. I mean, they're all doing the different levels I would call horrible things, dangerous things. On their own.
I met you when I first moved here in 2010. You were doing a talk on water harvesting. I was like, well, I clearly did. Yes, yeah. And so, yeah.
We'll go again. Woo-wee. Absolutely, absolutely.
Jim, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Tammy
Yes.
Maitland, and I work with the Slow Food USA Books group, Slow Books.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
One of the curators for them, and I think you gave us like a list of books one time.
Absolutely, I sure did. Yeah.
And stuff. So I was.